So, first of all, I would like to say hello for everybody, for Cesar, Michelle, and everybody from World Community Council. It's a huge pleasure for GBC Brazil to participate in this conference. Congratulate Mexico GBC for the organization. So, we will talk a little about what kind of activities with the government GBC Brazil has been developing and what's the results of those activities. So, focus our activities on 4 big areas. So the priority area is education. The idea is the qualifications of professionals in various areas. So we are invested a lot in education. Then we have the information, the compilation and disseminations of the best practice, including technology, materials, process, and operational procedures. We are promoting Brazil the LEED certification. Then we are working with government in terms of trying to influence them to create some incentives, finance incentives or administrative incentives for the green building movement. So in terms of education, we created in 2008 our national education program where we have courses and seminars, online courses, MBA in sustainable construction, and we have already received participation of more than 27,000 professionals all around Brazil. In terms of information, we are investing in a big conference that we created in 2010. So this year, the next editions of our international conference and expo will be the end of August in the next 3 weeks. And we have huge expectations in terms of numbers of professionals involved, companies involved in the exposition hall. So last year we exceed all our expectations and we have attained the definitions of joining high-level professionals involved in Brazilian green building industry. So this is a very important tool for us to spread the information about sustainable construction. In terms of LEED certification, this is the growth of the LEED certification in the Brazilian market. So this graph shows the growth in terms of buildings, registered projects. So we already have 33 certified projects, around 317 registered projects. This is how those projects are distributed around Brazil. So obviously it's concentrated in the state of São Paulo, the big economy of Brazil, but we can find projects in different parts of Brazil. So this is an example of buildings acquired in the last years. So we have commercial buildings, residential buildings, industry plants, government buildings, hospitals, call centers, supermarkets, shopping centers. Have different types of buildings for the green certification. And what we can say here in Brazil, for example, if we analyze the sector of commercial buildings, special AAA commercial buildings, like commercial buildings that will be rented or sold for big operations. So in this sector, almost all new commercial buildings in São Paulo and Rio de Janeiro, they are looking for the LEED certification. So now it's a demand of market for this sector, green certification. But now we will focus in government relationship. And for us, why is it crucial to be engaged with government? So I would like to highlight some points. Like the government has powerful tools to spread awareness, policies, and campaigns. Is a big building owner and a big contractor. And here in Brazil, we have very important federal programs in terms of investment. An example of them is the PAC, Accelerated Growth Program, where the federal government are promising to invest a lot of money in infrastructure. We have our national housing program. So with the government in its agenda, the construction of millions of homes in the next years. Then we have the Olympic Games, the World Cup that will take place in Brazil. In Olympic Games will be 2016 and World Cup 2014. And about the World Cup, in terms of investment, the country will invest in terms of stadiums around $4 billion, urban mobility, $7 billion, and airport, the investment will be $3.7 billion. So it's very important for us to engage with government, trying to convince them to start to implement or oblige the green building practice for this kind of investment. Next. And how we started to work with government. So in our strategic plan to deal with the government, we defined that the education could be the first step. We started training and informing the public authorities and the public employees, introducing them the benefits and the real impact of the civil construction industry. We started to inform them about the sustainable construction practice in terms of concepts, materials, technology, some methodologies like integrated project team and its benefits, whole building design, life cycle analysis. We started to introduce them very successful studies in terms of payback, cost cycle analysis, and we use some arguments like green buildings offer more money for government, so buildings are the cheapest and easiest way to save energy. It's cheaper to invest in energy efficiency than to invest in energy production. Green buildings, similar, it's synonym of more security, more productivity, and more jobs. So we use some arguments, and we started to educate them about this kind of concepts and new methodologies. And after that, started to be engaged, and we started to, in collaborations with some government agencies, we started to develop some projects. And one of those projects that we'll mention today, for example, with the Brazilian Federal Senate, we support them to elaborate a sustainable construction manual to help the public authorities to implement sustainable construction concepts in a public building. So it was a very important initiative for us. The other important initiative was with the Secretary of Housing of São Paulo. We partnership with them, and the Secretary started to support one of our campaigns, the one degree less, and they promised to paint in white all the new, the roof of all the new popular homes in the state of São Paulo to avoid the heat island effect and the indoor air quality of those buildings. And then they ended, and the secretary started to implement the solar panels to heat water. They changed the project architectural to provide natural ventilation. They started to implement permeable pavement, water individual measurement views apartment, and the recycle waste management in those popular homes in the state of São Paulo. And then after that, we started to be engaged with the World Cup. So showing synergy between the Olympic project and the World Cup, the local organizations committee of the World Cup started to strongly recommend the LEED certification for the stadiums. And then we started to help them to influence the stadium's owners to register the project in the LEED certification. Nowadays, we already have 10 stadiums registered in LEED certification. And FIFA, recently, they mentioned LEED certification in its technical requirements and requisite standard for stadiums. Actually, they mentioned the LEED, the BREEAM, and another certifications that I forgot. I'm sorry, but you can find this document in a special item that they call green goals. Then you will see they mention the certifications. And then the Brazilian Government Bank of Development, showing proactivity and leadership, they got the approval from the federal government to apply the sustainable certification in its special finance line for the stadium. So the BNDES, they create a special finance line where they are offering a lower interest rates and a long-term payment for the stadium, but they apply the international green building certification. And then they did the same with the special finance line for hotels, hospitality. They call Procopa Turismo. And then they apply not the certifications, but not the green building certifications, but they apply that the hotels prove that they follow some standard of energy efficiency. This is the example of the Stadium of Brasilia. So in Brasilia, they have a goal in its stadium. They are looking for the LEED Platinum certification, and the government of Brasilia mentioned in the newspaper, the press, the media, that the goal of the stadium is a low CO2 emission stadium, garbage recycling, public transportation, biodiversity, low environment impact, and social inclusion. The project design provides natural lighting and ventilation, recycle or recycle. They will use only recycle or recyclable materials. The good connectivity with the urban area. For example, it's very close to the hotels area, so the user will be able to go in a walk distance to the stadiums. Efficient air conditioning system and permeable pavement. And they have already, in the demolitions of the old stadium Brasilia, they reuse the materials from demolition. So the concrete was transformed in recycled gravel and reused it. The steel was sent to a recycle cooperative. The old seats were used in another public stadium, and the grass used in the public areas of the city. And what we have been developing. So we put our technical committee that has more than 100 professionals. They are developing a reference guide for residents in general. So, and then we use this guideline to influence the adoption of green building practice in the city's building codes. So for that, after the creation of this reference guide, we will work close with the city ministry to